Hello, everybody. Zon gets 134 here.
And as always, I am Average Joe Squad.
Welcome to Remember the Hyphen, where it's our 100th episode.
We got something real special planned for you tonight.
Yep, something real good that fits in with the theme of our show, and it is...
Howard the Duck on 4K.
We already did Howard the Duck, though.
But 4K.
That's not even about the X-Men, Colton.
I'm kidding, everybody. Tonight we're going to do Logan as our exciting conclusion to The Good, the Bad, and the Wolverine month.
Are you okay? You need some help? Wait.
I'm fucking real emotional right now, man.
It's okay. But anyway.
I actually went and saw this movie in the theater when it came out. I was with two of my buddies who, we all grew up watching X-Men and stuff. We were really the only ones in the whole theater. And by the end of it, we were all pretty much emotionally fucking broken walking out of that theater.
Which is why I didn't go see it, because I'm like, you know what? I'm not in the mood to hurt. Although as I was watching this movie, all I could think about was that scene in Deadpool 2 where, like, he's trying to kill himself with the gasoline and the bombs. He's like, no, if Wolverine gets to have a death scene, I get to have one too. And then, like, at the end when it explodes and you just see his head in the one hand doing the middle finger, he's like, fuck you, Wolverine. like, because that movie was rough to get through, so all I could think of was anytime something really fucking rough happened, I just would go, fuck you, Wolverine.
Yeah, because you had never seen this movie before this month.
I knew some of it because, like, I'm familiar with the comic this is based on, Old Man Logan.
Plus, you've seen clips of it.
I've seen clips of it, yeah. Like, it's just one of those things, like, I wasn't really an X-Men guy, and I also was like, you know what, I don't know if I'm really in the mood to just
fucking hurt.
Yeah, to fucking hurt. I am glad I watched this because, like, knowing, like, how it was going to be, it did take a little bit of the emotional sting out of it, but, like, I was glad to watch it because, like, this way I could kind of, like...
It's a really good movie.
It is a solid piece. Like,
this and Days, like, back-to-back are, like, excellent.
I actually kind of think, like, it's a shame that, like, this movie doesn't get a lot of credit because I think this is kind of better than, like, DC's really dark, like Joker, like... Because this is such a great character piece, and it still feels like the comic book. Like, that's one of my problems with Joker was that while I liked it, like, this Joker is a little too not like the Joker that you and I like.
Whereas this is straight up just Logan.
This is just Logan. Like, he's old, he's dying, and it's just, like, Logan as a character. In my opinion, I think this gets Logan a little bit more than some of the other movies, which... Like, I think this gets, like, while Logan's a great character, he's also kind of a prick. like this really gets, like, I think some of the more nastiness, like, nastier side of Wolverine kind of to, like, but, like, here it's explained because, he's old, he's dying, he's the last X-Men still alive, it really gets, like, the core of this character. Although I will admit, it does lose some points for me because we don't have him and Blind Hawkeye riding around the Spider-Mobile, like in Old Man Logan. I say this is based on Old Man Logan. This is based on the concept of Old Man Logan. Because, like, the actual book, Old Man Logan, is fucking weird.
I've heard some stuff. I've never personally read it, but I've heard some stuff, like, bits and pieces here and there.
It's not bad, but, like... If you watch this movie and then we're like, I want to read the book this is based on, you're going to be like, what the fuck is this? Like, for one, like, America is divided into, like, 3 different parts, which one is ran by the Kingpin, which kind of makes sense. He's the Kingpin. One is led by the President of the United States, which you find out is Mysterio. Which I don't want to go in too much into Mysterio because I kind of want to talk about what the really big difference is in this movie when we get there. The other's owned by the Hulk and his hillbilly children that, like, bang their sisters, and, like, it was written by Mark Millar. Like, if you've ever seen, like, Kick-Ass or The Boys or anything like... Yeah. Like, this here...
I'm currently watching The Boys right now, actually. I'm on episode 3.
I think The Boys is written by Warren Ellis or Garth Ennis, but, like... Those guys are way... Like, Mark Millar has this thing where he puts in really weird sex shit for no fucking reason. Like, if you've ever read The Ultimates where, like, he had, like, the Wasp distracted the Hulk by popping her tits out. it's like that the entire film. It's really
that scene where Rachel and Peter are talking, and Rachel's like, "You're the first male that's never thought about me naked up to this point," and then Peter immediately starts doing it.
Actually, that was Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh, that was Bendis's bullshit.
Yeah, which I
can't remember if that was in Ultimate Spidey or if that was in Ultimate X-Men.
No, that was an Ultimate Spidey, because I remember when Comic Pop, because they've been doing like all the volumes of Ultimate Spider-Man. That was Bendis, which someday we'll talk about Ultimate Spider-Man.
The way he writes Rachel is fucking weird.
The way he writes Peter's fucking weird, like in my opinion. Also, his version of Kitty is just
psycho.
Yeah. But anyway, getting back on track, because we don't go 27 minutes into this video talking about all the weird comic book shit. Well, and of course, the other thing about Old Man Logan is Logan actually doesn't die in that book. It's more about like his journey in the story than it is, his death, as it were, here. But like I said, the book's fine. I do prefer the movie over the book, because the book is a little too comic booky, if that makes any sense. Like, I think this is more what you expect when you pop in, like, the idea of Old Man Logan. Like, it's about the last Logan story, basically. Or, for a better example, Wolverine the End, which I think also this takes some from.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Marvel actually
got coated in adamantium and it, like, cooled over his body.
That's the death of Wolverine.
That was the death of Wolverine.
Wolverine the End is, like, it's in that, well, I was going to say, Marvel the End is this line of books where they tell the last story of a character. I want to say in that, actually, Wolverine is still alive, but it's like, it's kind of Days of Future Pasty, but which, if you don't know what we're talking about, watch episode 99. I think basically what happens is, like, there's a nuclear war, and Wolverine has spoilers for this movie if you haven't watched it. It goes into the idea, like, the adamantium in his bones is poisoning him, but also, like, he's like, it's like World War III, and he's trying. It's basically like one last war for Logan, more or less, and he dies. But like, so basically, it's kind of meshing a bunch of different ideas about like the death of Wolverine, which, oddly enough, I want to say that they actually did the death of Wolverine just after this movie came out, because they wanted to get the other character that's in this movie a little bit more prevalency by making her Wolverine, which we'll get into. But yeah, those are the various like storylines that this is taking from. Is more likely Old Man Logan and Wolverine the End. Which, there are some good the End stories, but there's also a lot of really weird stories, like the Hulk the End, where Banner has a heart attack and dies, and then turns into the Hulk, and now the Hulk is permanently the Hulk, and like without Banner now is just the last being alive on Earth. They can get really fucking weird. But anyway, let's dive into like the movie.
Yeah, I'm ready to get depressed now.
So the film opens really, really well, in my opinion. It opens on Wolverine like drunk, passed out in the limo, because he's now a limo driver. He works for a company. He drives people around. I want to say it's in Vegas or like
somewhere in the western
the southwest. Occasionally you see Hulk jumping around in shitty CG.
Fuck you! There's no Ang Lee shit in here. Get out of here.
But I mean, it's a Hulk. Hulk has to just bounce around the southwest. It's a rule. But basically, this gang tries to steal the hubcaps off the. I actually love it because like Wolverine's drunk. He's like, guys, don't
fucking do this.
Well, no, I actually love it because he's like, no, don't twist the screws out. You're gonna strip them, and the chrome's gonna come off. You gotta I love he's actually trying to tell them how to actually take the hubcaps off. He's like, just take the hubcaps. I can get new hubcaps. And then like they shoot him with a shotgun, and then Wolverine starts fucking them up. Like this is probably one of the goriest films I like superhero films I watched in a long while, and I've seen fucking Dredd.
Yeah, would you say this is more gory than Dredd in parts?
Oh yeah, like I think the only other film, oddly enough, would be Deadpool. But even then, Deadpool doesn't get
this
gory. Like dude's arms are flying off. Like Wolverine's stabbing people through the eyes.
Well, that was a big deal when this movie came out. Was that they were like they were gonna do a rated R Wolverine,
which.
It was. I remember my buddies and me being excited for that because it was like holy fuck, he's just gonna be fucking dudes up left and
'Cause
right.
I think that was one of the few complaints I remember of the Wolverine was that, like, yeah, he gets to pop the claws and like kill ninjas and shit, but like, it's not nearly the kind of gore you expect from Wolverine.
Yeah, whereas like Logan
here-
just
oh my
is
God.
like, okay, you want gore?
No, like-
let's flip the gore all the way
No,
out.
oh my god, like I give this movie credit. It does not it doesn't like there's no
It
discretion.
doesn't pull punches. It's like, all right, you want gore, you're gonna get gore.
Like later on when you see Caliban after he blows himself up with the grenades, you see his corpse all like ripped and charred. I'm like, damn, I didn't need to see that. I mean, it was great, but damn, like no, this movie it is what like you would expect from an R-rated Wolverine picture, like an R-rated hero film in general. It is nasty in places, and I think that helps the charm.
Cap's gone, son.
No, no, it's not. Here it is. Anyway, if you want to kind of talk about
Yeah, so like I said, the gore was a big deal when that came out, and it shows in this movie a lot.
yeah.
So, but we kind of, in addition to seeing Logan as like he's a limo driver now, we kind of start to kind of piece together, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Because we see that Professor X is still alive. He's kind of like really drugged up on stuff because when he's not drugged up, his powers are going haywire.
Yeah, like
And
whenever
he's got dementia.
Yeah, he's got dementia. It causes him to like have seizures, and in doing so, his psychic powers cause everyone else to have seizures. I think like the only people that can really tolerate it are like Wolverine and this other character that we're gonna get introduced to later because of
The healing factor.
the healing factor. Like he's the only one who can like push himself through it more or less. But yeah, basically he has to keep Professor Xavier drugged. He's aided by this albino character that was introduced in X-Men Apocalypse named Caliban, who has like a mutant sensing ability. He kind of explains it like he's like a bloodhound where like he can like sniff out mutants. I forget exactly why he's helping Logan. I think basically because he wants to help him with Professor X. But basically Caliban's like, you can't keep him like this forever. And not only that, like you're too sick to keep him like this too. Because it's established early on that like Wolverine is basically nowhere near as powerful in his regenerative factor. For one of his claws doesn't pop all the way out. Like he has to like rip the claw out to get it go all the way out. Like it pops blood. Like it takes forever for the bullets to pop out of his skin. And like I said, later on they more or less imply like the adamantium is like poisoning his body. That like his regenerative factor can no longer basically fix whatever the adamantium is doing to him, which is kind of interesting because usually I think in the comics they imply like adamantium actually like if it's in your body it actually boosts your healing factor. Like they actually kind of imply that like it somehow like soups up healing factors. In fact they actually invented a
Logan
metal
had his healing factor before the adamantium.
But because of the adamantium like he can like regenerate from like a drop of blood on the skeleton more or less. But like because like I remember actually when they removed the adamantium from him in Onslaught, it even implied that like removing it actually caused his healing factor to go even further to the point where it was regressing him into like a caveman. But the less said about that, the better, because it's really stupid. In fact, they had actually invented a metal that actually nullifies his healing ability. I think it's called carbonite or something like that. It's the metal that's in Draken's like wrist knife that he uses to try and kill Wolverine because of his daddy issues. Really, really, really bad daddy issues. But it was kind of interesting to see that they implied that the adamantium was killing him, which is ironic because he's also carrying an adamantium bullet, so he can just blow his brains out when Professor Xavier passes on. But yeah, basically, Wolverine is trying to buy a boat so he can take Xavier away from people and like they can just live out like the rest of their days. Because Professor Xavier's like 90 years old in this, so like it's not like he's no long. He basically just wants Xavier to be in a place where he can be at peace, more or less. And he's trying to buy a boat by basically being a limo driver. And also implies that like the X-Men are gone and we don't know why. But they explain it as it goes on. So while this is going on, one night Wolverine is, or no, actually he's doing a job at a funeral. He's met by this woman whose name is Gabriella, and she's like, "You're Wolverine, right?" And of course Logan's like, "Fuck off, that's not who I am, go the fuck away."
Fuck off.
Yeah, he more or less says that. But basically she wants Logan to escort her and her daughter They give her name in this as Laura, or do they not give the name?
They give it as Laura.
Yeah, okay. Her daughter Laura, they need to get to South Dakota?
South Dakota.
Yeah, South Dakota, because they're trying to get to this place, and she even offers Logan money, like enough for him to finally buy the boat. And so he's like, I'll think about it. And so a couple nights later, he goes back to her to try and get the money, and she's been killed. More than likely by this dude that's been stalking Wolverine with a metallic hand. I forget exactly his name. It's like Pierce or something like that.
Asshole number 1.
Yeah, asshole number 1. Which I actually kind of love. He's a member of this group called the Reavers, which are like these cyborg dudes that like have like cybernetic limbs and stuff. Basically to make them. I actually think it's a reference to the Cable stuff, which makes sense because this came out before Deadpool 2. So basically the guys who gave Cable some of his cybernetic augmentations, because I want to say in the movies they don't say that he has like a cybernetic disease that's turning him into a cyborg like they do in the comics. But basically they're tracking Wolverine because they're actually after the girl because after Logan comes and finds Gabriella dead, he takes her cell phone because he figures that it might have some answers on it. Because he knew that like they figured out that she was texting him, so they murdered her. Now, as soon as they get back, he finds out Laura is with her in the bag, and it turns out that the guys are after Laura. Because it's revealed after they send in a bunch of guys in to go after her. They also want Professor Xavier because like he's the world's greatest psychic. So
why wouldn't you want
him? Even if he is like dementia ridden, or I think they also kind of try to imply that it's more than dementia, but like regardless, it's something that's causing the guy who has the most powerful brain in the world to be betrayed by it, which that's some good fucking writing right there. It's really good writing. So they send a bunch of guys in to try and capture Laura, and then one of the dudes' head rolls because it turns out this is X-23. For those of you who don't know, in the early 2000s, particularly thanks to the cartoon X-Men Evolution, because I want to say she premiered.
Yeah, she premiered in X-Men Evolution.
Basically a group. Sometimes I think it's Weapon X. Sometimes it's not Weapon X. It just depends on.
I think anymore in the comics it's Weapon X.
Basically decided, well, fuck, if we can't have Wolverine, we'll clone him. Which they cloned a bunch of them, like 23 clones, and the last one that they made was X-23. She is a female clone of Wolverine due to genetic tampering, and she's basically was made to be like A, to kill Wolverine, and B, to be like their Weapon X.
And she instead of 3 claws, she has 2, and she also has one that comes out of her foot because female lions have a claw in their foot, and it's a defense mechanism. Yes, I know. Holy fuck, they make such a big deal out of it.
Which I'm like, you could just say it's because of like the genetic tampering, or even that they're like, you know what, let's augment her. Like we'll do something.
I remember that was a big deal when that movie came out because people kept pointing that out.
Like they also don't even bring up the fact that like Laura technically has pheromones that makes dudes want to bang her. Like, because
I think in this is because she's a fucking child.
Like, yeah, she's a child. Like, well, I was more gonna be like they don't try to explain that shit. So like, I don't know why they needed to go into like such a big detail about the claw.
They wanted to make sure the casuals understood that hey, the claw on the toe is because of of this. It's even though because I'm sure somebody somewhere. When they saw it, they're like, well, why doesn't she just have 3 in the fucking hand like Wolverine does? That's stupid.
To which I'm like, she's an alternate, she's a gender swapped clone. They always have differences.
No,
like,
I don't care. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I know. Like
you know how fucking casual people are.
No, I know. Like I can just live with that just because I'm like, well, yeah, like why not give her like sweet feet claws?
Yeah, so this was probably also, in addition to that opening, was probably where it was like the gore got amped
where
all
Laura
the way
just
up.
slaughters people left and right. I'm like, holy shit.
Fucking scene where like she like cuts the dude's jugular out and is fucking screaming the whole time. It's like, I remember watching it in a theater and being like, holy fuck.
The fact that it opens with her just carrying a dude's disembodied head and then tossing it.
One dude's just like, no. It's just the fucking claws coming out. The whole time Logan is just like,
what the fuck?
Holy shit.
What the fuck? What I also love is like, it's really important that she's a mutant because it's also been a long time since a mutant's been born because Professor Xavier brings that up. Which later it's revealed that like, well, we'll get there. There's a reason why there hasn't been any new mutants since like the death of the X-Men. But basically, after Logan realizes that she's basically his daughter via cloning, he gets them all the fuck out of there and decides, I'm gonna take her to like this place that, and you know, they want to go.
Well, and remember, the whole time this is happening, New Mutants is also happening at the same time.
Oh yeah, because this technically
this is in the same timeline. So these movies are happening concurrently.
Yeah, because I guess it would be concurrently because they do have, because later on, Logan finally gets a phone charger to charge the lady's phone because it died. But basically, she's not Laura's mother, obviously. And she basically reveals she was working for this corporation. It's basically the same corporation that made Logan into Weapon X. That was a loud truck that just went by. Yeah, sorry, we gotta keep the windows a little bit cracked open, or else we're gonna melt.
It was one of those hillbilly hick squat fucks that I hate.
Yeah,
I hate them fucking trucks. I hope those get banned.
Yeah, I do apologize if there's a little bit of noise. We're gonna melt if we don't have the windows down a little bit. But basically, this corporation has been creating mutants to be child soldiers, so they can make weapons. Like to the point where like they don't have birthdays. They're built to be weapons. Unfortunately, with children that doesn't really work, as David Kane from Batman can tell you. That usually leads to them either rebelling to you or other such shenanigans. Like the one for me that was really rough is they showed one of the kids like just jump off a building because they couldn't handle being turned into weapons. And of course, they also showed like that they did the adamantium treatment to Laura, which I guess they've perfected enough that they don't have to put her in a water tank. And, like,
yeah, so we don't have to get a recap of that shit.
But basically, like. They also hire a bunch of like immigrants because like they either can't understand too much of what they're saying, or they can't go to the government because like they'll get deported.
And I think a lot of it was they were just pulling people that like if we kill you, nobody's gonna give a shit.
Well, that too, like because I can tell there's a lot of political commentary in this movie, which it's an X-Men movie, so that's kind of a given. But basically, she and some other doctors have managed to get a bunch of the kids out. They all went their separate ways to try and keep from getting captured. And then, we are basically caught up at the beginning, where basically she tells Logan to take Laura to this place called Eden, which Logan later finds out is actually from an X-Men comic book. Because I guess in this universe they made comics about the X-Men.
Well, it makes sense because...
I mean, it kind of does, but
MCU, they did that with Cap.
I mean... Yes and no, because like unlike the MCU, everybody hates mutants in the X-Men movies, so I don't know why they would even want to make comics about the X-Men. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's written by like a mutant, like.
Well, the best part is what Logan comments on. He's like only like
10%
of this shit is real.
Well, yeah, because they didn't show a scene where Magneto rips the San Francisco Bridge off.
I think the issue they show, I think that's an actual comic too. I think that's like an actual issue. I think.
It might have been.
I'm looking it up right because
I'm not entirely sure.
Keep going. I'll let you know if it is.
But basically, Wolverine now knows that Eden's not fucking real, and he wants to turn back and just get the money so that he can escape with Xavier and the kid on the boat. But basically, Professor Xavier more or less is like, no, we have to do this. You were given we were given a mission to do this. So Logan's like, all right, fine. We'll go to South Dakota, and after we prove you there's nothing there, we're going to get the boat. And so they drive, and eventually they reach Oklahoma, where they get a room at like a casino.
Okay, so here's the story with that. It's not a real one, but what happened was the director basically got permission from Marvel to use an X-Men comic, provided it wasn't a real issue. So what he did was he went to Joe Quesada and Dan Panosian to create his own. They created 10 different ones in a couple different pages. So that's a completely custom comic.
Oh my god, that actually explains why the art looks so fucking 90s. Because that's all Quesada knows how to draw. Like, for those of you who don't know, before Joe Quesada was the The head of Marvel, he was an artist. And probably one of the most well-known things he ever drew was the cover of Batman issue 500, the debut of Azrael as Batman. Yeah, he's the guy who created the Asbat costume.
AKA the most 90s Batman shit to ever Batman.
Yeah, there's a reason why we call it Asbat, because it sounds like it's Assbat. Because, although to be fair, I kind of like that costume.
Yeah, so there's a story on that. It was custom covers.
That's kind of cool, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, Joe Quesada did this. And like, oh.
I hate Joe Quesada with passion, so...
like,
for reasons we've detailed in many other episodes.
A lot. But they end up going to Oklahoma, where Logan... Like, he gets a new car because the limo is completely riddled with bullets and the glass is all shot out of it. So he gets a truck. He goes to a bar, like... And more or less he realizes, because he goes into the limo one quick, and he found out that Charles hasn't been taking the medication. And so, eventually he goes back to the hotel, and Charles has another seizure because the guy's attacked, and so he tried to use his powers to, do that thing where he freezes everybody in place.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and in fact, pretty much everyone in the hotel gets hit with a seizure, which admittedly is a really good scene, because like it shows Wolverine like having to use his claws to dig through the walls to pull himself to where Professor Xavier and Laura is. Meanwhile, poor Laura's on the ground, like, and so Logan like stabs all these dudes, which I love because like it like they're paralyzed, so he's just like stabbing them and like to pull himself to Professor Xavier and make him take the serum shots with him. I'm pretty sure it's a reference to First Class, because those are the serum shots that he was using to like nullify his powers originally. And so basically he does that. All the guys are dead now because Logan stabbed them through the head or the chest or wherever he stabbed them, and they make their getaway, which of course pisses Pierce off, and pisses off Pierce's bosses enough that they decide to get involved, because Caliban's more or less not refusing to give them enough information to like get to Logan, to give them a little bit to stay ahead. This of course leads to them getting away. I also like here where we actually get to see some of like the more future tech, because this takes place in like 2029, which if we don't have self-driving semi-trucks in the next 8 years, I'm gonna be pissed.
You're gonna be pissed because the gas companies are gonna say fuck you, we control shit because we make money. You don't get this shit.
I found that hilarious, because I'm like, I see in 8 years we're gonna have, just like how in 2015 we had hoverboards and flying cars, right? Back to the Future.
With the oil companies and gas companies having any kind of power, that ain't happening.
No, I just found that hilarious that they had auto trucks. I'm like, because like if you really think about that, those are like the most unsafe fucking things ever. Yeah. Like smart cars.
Let's make them more unsafe.
Yeah. Let's take a car. Let's take it, instead of putting it into a car, let's put it into a 2-ton fucking semi-truck. Yeah, I can't see anything bad happening with those. But yeah, basically this leads into like a little side thing where like, basically an auto truck tries to drive them off the road, and while they manage to get away, it drives another truck onto the road, which causes all their horses to get out, which leads to Wolverine and Professor Xavier helping them with the horses. And more or less, Professor Xavier more or less convinces Logan and them to like stay at this farmer's house, which
don't ask, just keep going.
Which leads to this really nice scene where like Logan, Professor Xavier, and Laura have to pretend to be family, which I mean they are, but like actually have to pretend to be like a stable family.
Oh, you mean the most touching scene of the whole fucking movie? And then I get my heart fucking ripped out of me at the next scene.
Actually, really, I really love that part, because it really shows like how much Wolverine has kind of lost and what he's still trying to hold on to. And it shows like how much Laura is like damaged as a product of being turned into a weapon.
We forgot to bring up my favorite scene.
Oh, your favorite scene?
The scene where she's riding the fucking mechanical horse and fucking stabs
through because the fucking thing ran out of coins. That don't help. Last ride. That's
That or the scene of the guy trying to stop her from stealing the food is fucking
I
ridiculous.
don't know why he bothered stopping her. She's just eating like regular Pringles, and everyone knows those are gross. It's sour cream or nothing. But
Oh, it's called plain tortilla chips, where it's at. I said what I said. You can be uncultured and say I'm wrong.
anyway, so basically the farmer and his family want them to stay the night. While this is going on, the asshole white farmer, because his family's black, and this farmer basically is like, it's like, no, I want all the land, because it's like, if you've ever seen any farm movie, there's always this one asshole farmer that's stealing all the other farmers' land. Which also, this is a reference to the movie Shane, because Professor Xavier watched that with Laura, and it more or less is like the plot to this movie is about, you know, like this gunman who's tired of being a gunman and basically eventually leaves in a sense. Which I actually do give them credit. I actually like the fact that like they bring in Shane because like Logan is Shane. Like, I think that's really cool. Admittedly, I've only ever seen bits and pieces of Shane.
I've never seen any of it, and I've never read the book.
But you at least know,
class in high school that read that, I wasn't in.
You at least know the classic line of Shane, come back Shane.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that line.
Well, I know the ending part of it.
No, yeah, because this movie more or less
references
the shit out of that ending. You know, and unlike Joker, this isn't just straight up Taxi Driver.
15 people angry reacted to this.
Oh, they can bite me. And so basically, like, the water goes out, so they can't take baths. But, you know, basically, they have to go fix the water pump. And so Logan, you know, brings Charles down, puts Charles to bed, and I actually really like the scene because, like, I love Charles, or Professor Xavier. He's like, you know, well, Logan, it was probably the best meal and night I've had in a long time. You know, we could have something like this, you know. And Wolverine's like, you know what happens when we're around normal people. Like, it's really rough, basically. Like, it's like it really shows just how, like, wounded and just tired this Logan is.
Well, it also shows that even at this point, coming off of what we talked about in the last episode, Xavier still hasn't given up hope.
Yeah, like he's. Like, it is really interesting, especially because, like, well, once we get to it, like, it really shows just how much, like, without Professor Xavier, Wolverine just
goes off the rails.
And so, while him and the farmer are going up to fix the pump, Charles thinks that Wolverine has came into the house again. And we also get this really nice scene where Laura is with the eldest son of the family. And basically, it's kind of interesting, because, like, the kid, like, the father makes him do all this, like, these farm, like, fair things, and he really isn't into it. He's really into the music and stuff, and he shares his music with Laura. And we get this really cute scene where Laura, like, took the headphones and is listening to the music as she sleeps on the foot of Professor Xavier's bed. And basically, Professor Xavier's talking. He thinks Wolverine has come back from fixing the water pump, and he's like, you know, Logan, I remember the day when all the X-Men died, and, like, you've been trying to keep from me that, like, more or less, Professor Xavier had his first seizure, and he killed all the X-Men except Logan, which when I read
is rough as fuck.
Yeah, especially because, like. Because I think, like, one of the newscasts says that, like, it was the seizure thing that happened in Oklahoma was the same as the one that happened in Westchester, you know, where the X Mansion is, that killed 600 people, including the X-Men. Where it more or less says that like Professor Xavier had that seizure and, like, killed like 600 people. And that basically that's like Logan, like Wolverine's been like keeping him idle ever since, just as a way to protect him and so that they can get away, more or less. And just as he says that, he admits to Wolverine that he was sorry and that Wolverine is like the best son he ever had. A clone of Wolverine, dubbed X-24, stabs Professor Xavier through the chest, and he slowly starts to die. Which eventually he does die at the end of the scene. And I was like, well, fuck me, I guess.
Well,
Like,
did you know at first that was a clone?
I kind of did, because he looked way younger. And also, like, they kind of gave him the saber-tooth mutton chops.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this isn't... Then, like, it made too much sense that, like, why would Logan just kill him? So I'm like, oh shit, they have an X-24. And so, while this is going on, the farmer and Wolverine, come across this farmer and his hillbilly henchmen, and Wolverine basically tells them to get the fuck out. Like, I love that scene.
Why don't you go play Okie Dokie Dick Dance somewhere else?
And then they all put the guns, and Wolverine grabs the gun from the main guy and like basically breaks the dude's nose with the butt of the rifle, and then tells them to get the fuck out. And I was like, God, that was so satisfying, because I fucking hated them hillbillies.
I ain't never seen a more country hick-ass place in my life.
Yeah. And basically they go back, and unfortunately X-24 killed everyone in the house, and then eventually killed the father when he tries to fend the guy off. Logan finds a dying Professor Xavier and tries to get him to the truck, because basically Wolverine's like, no, we gotta go. Like, we've already caused enough damage, we're just gonna go. And then he's trying to keep Professor Xavier alive, but it sadly doesn't do it. It doesn't work. And X-24 manages to capture Laura, because I guess he's just that good, because he's Wolverine. And basically the doctor, which I don't remember his name, but basically he's the one commanding, because like he's the only person that X-24 listens to. Like Pierce and the others, he won't listen. And so basically they try and go out to get him, while Logan, after seeing Professor Xavier die, just goes
fucking ballistic
and starts killing everybody. Unfortunately, X-24, because he's younger, he just rips Logan apart. While this is going on, Pierce and the others start getting guns, and Caliban sneaks 2 grenades and basically blows himself up along with like some of Pierce's men, and sadly dies, which that was rough. I feel like Caliban didn't deserve any of that. Like, that poor bastard just was...
I don't think anybody really deserved anything in this fucking movie.
Well, like, especially that scene where like Pierce tortures Caliban because he's an albino by putting him under sun, and it causes his skin to like burn. I'm just like, damn, man, you didn't need to fucking do that. But
they're evil. They don't give a shit.
I know. I was just like, damn. Like it's rough, and especially because like they're going with like the Shane thing. They're basically just evil cowmen. Like, so like they're like assholes for no fucking reason, so that they can die horribly gruesome deaths at the end of this movie. And so basically Wolverine like is just no match for X-24, and the farmer, who had been brutally injured by X-24, drives his truck into X-24 and crashes him against like a bunch of farm equipment that like stabs through him, which I will admit was actually clever, because it actually sets up how Wolverine dies at the end of this film, which I was like, oh, that's pretty clever, actually. And of course, like, the farmer with his last breath tries to shoot Wolverine because like, you're the reason everyone's dead. Unfortunately, like, I think he runs out of ammo, and then he collapses from his wounds and dies. But thankfully, because everyone else is dead, Wolverine frees Laura, and they bail in the truck. Which, of course, then, of course, they free Pierce and the doctor free X-24 and give him, like, this medicine that they use to, like, accelerate his healing, and also, I think, to make him docile. I think they put tranks in it, too. Then, of course, we get the even rougher scene later where
they bury Xavier and the whole scene of, like, Laura, like, holding his hand.
Yeah, and he's talking about, like, I figured you'd like it here because there's water. And then, like, he goes to...
That scene is so I think that was the first part where... I think if I hadn't been crying before that...
No,
that was when I started losing it in the theater, because I was like, this is rough as fuck.
Yeah, like, and then, we get the scene where he's, like, smashing the truck with the because it won't start with the shovel, and just...
Yeah.
Eventually, like, he goes too angry, and, like, in his state, he just collapses onto the ground. Well, then Laura, seeing a dude with a truck, steals this guy's truck, puts Wolverine in the truck, and drives him to a doctor's office where she meets a doctor who's kind enough and is like one of those like country folk doctors, gives him medical treatment. You see like the extent of the injuries Logan has. Like his torso is basically just like scar tissue and like bleeding wounds. And he's just like, I never thought I'd meet one of you in person. No, you need to rest. Like we need to figure out what's wrong with you and get the poison out of me. He's like, I already know it's killing me, dog. And they of course drags Laura out and he tries to get Laura to understand that there is no Eden.
Which has, honest to God, the funniest scene in the whole movie for me is that there's this part where like Laura just starts fucking screaming at him in Spanish. And Logan just like looks at her and he's like, hey,
no comprende.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. And then Laura finally...
Which I don't know why. In the theater, that was like the funniest shit. Maybe because I had just spent 5 minutes like crying. And I'm like, that's actually kind of funny.
That was actually really nice because I think...
Shut the fuck up. It was almost like he was like, if you're going to fucking yell at me, yell at me in a language I understand.
And then she starts speaking in English. He's like, what the fuck was the last 2,000 miles? Which I was just like, yeah. You tell me. It's like that scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Many people put up with Logan's shit. Yeah. X-23, however, does not put up with this shit.
It reminds me of that scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit when they're trying to get out of the cuffs and eventually...
You could have gotten out of the cuffs the whole time?
Not any time. Just when it was be funny. And I'm like, God damn it. But basically, once again, he tries to explain to Laura that Eden is not real. It is a comic book. It's not real. But, of course, Laura's having none of it because she's 12 years old and doesn't fucking listen. Yeah. Like most 12-year-olds. And so Logan's like, all right, fine. I'll drive you to fucking Eden, and then when there's nothing, we can just fucking go our separate ways. Of course, leads to them driving. Eventually, Logan passes the fuck out, and Laura starts driving for a bit.
Which is funny.
And kind of makes sense because, like, they probably would have trained her to use, like...
vehicles and shit. Vehicles aren't that hard to drive.
No,
at least not that hard to drive. Maybe harder to drive well.
Especially when you're 12 and can probably barely see over the steering wheel. But, and so eventually we come to this outpost in, I guess, Dakota. It's a little, for me, it's a little confusing. I'm like, how fucking far did they go? Well, eventually they find this outpost in, like, the desert. And Logan finds that Laura has gone up to it. Well, it turns out all the other children from the science lab have managed to get here, which, I mean, makes sense. They're all mutants, so they all have the like much better survival chances than anyone else. Unfortunately, none of the other doctors, I guess, made it. I guess all the doctors died.
Makes sense.
But so basically they drag Wolverine up. And thankfully, the other kid that's, like, as old as Laura, more or less, like, tends to Wolverine's wounds. They give him the same medicine that they gave X-24, but they give it to him in small doses because apparently too much of it basically...
It'll kill you.
It'll kill you and it makes you go berserk. So, because I assume that they've been using chemicals to give X-24 the berserker effect that, like, Wolverine has. And so, basically, at least Logan spends a couple days there. While this is going on, a drone finds them because, like, of course they find them. And so, more or less, they basically stay long enough that once they know Wolverine can, like, move, they leave him. Because, like, you kind of brought the scene up where, like, Logan talks to X-23 because she finds the adamantium bullet.
Yeah.
And basically, Laura's like, what? Like, I'm not supposed to let you die. Professor Xavier told me I need to keep you alive, and, like...
Yeah, we get this, like, really rough scene where Logan is just like... Yeah. Like, look, listen, people around me get fucking hurt.
Yeah.
People around me get killed. To which Laura then just, like, looks at him and is like, then I guess I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Which is, like...
Yeah, which is just...
Fucking... Again, I'm like... Movie just is like, hey, you got a heart?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Also, that the kids cut his beard so he looks more like
normal Wolverine.
Because for most of this movie, he has this big fucking beard. So, to make him look old. And so basically the kids leave, and, like, they leave Wolverine there. And eventually Wolverine sees that, like, Pierce and his men and the doctor have of course found them, and we basically get the scene like in Lost World Jurassic Park where they just start chasing the kids, and more or less they're gonna capture them, like, to get them all rounded up and then just kill them, or either that or like any of the kids that are probably still viable they're gonna keep. But like, I'm like, because like basically once they cross the border into Canada, like they could technically tell the Canadian officials, and I guess they'll be in some deep shit.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because the U.S. government fucking funded this. And so basically Wolverine tries to catch up to the kids to help them fight off these guys, but unfortunately, even with all the medicine they've been giving him, he's just not, at 100%. So he pulls all the medicine out of the last bottle he had and injects himself with it.
Yeah, which at that point, I remember being in the theater, okay, and again, so it's just me and my two buddies. That part came on, and all of us were collectively just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think it was my buddy Brian was just like, oh, this is about to get fucking gory.
Yeah, and it does.
Like, he's just about to fuck people up.
Like, not only does he fuck them up, all these kids, well, I mean, of course they are, because, like, they've been trained to do this. They just start fucking these guys up. And it's brutal. And eventually him and Laura work together, but unfortunately, like, even with all these kids working together, it's not enough, because these guys are, like, trained mercenaries. Yeah.
Like Doug, they're mercenaries.
Oh God! Don't bring that up. And so eventually, like, the doctor comes forward. He's like, I think you knew my father. He was part of the Weapon X program. I'm like, why would you bring that up? Like, that's gonna.
We just want to piss him off even more.
And like, I love it too, because he's like, yeah, I remember.
Oh, now he's berserk, and now he's having them fucking flashbacks. That's great.
Yeah, well, I love it too, because he's like, yeah, he put the poison in me. I'm pretty sure I killed him. Like, I think he even says, like, I think I slit his throat,
because he slit his fucking throat.
But I love the doctor, because he's like, no, yeah, that's fair. Like, I will admit, for this doctor, like, he's so evil, but at the same time, he's like, no, yeah,
he's kind of chill.
Yeah, he's kind of chill. Like, I was like, I keep forgetting that you're evil. Eventually, it reveals he's also the reason why there hasn't been New Mutants spawn, because. And I remember this was actually, I think, a plot point in Old Man Wolverine, or Old Man Logan. Basically, he decided that he would be the one who would make mutants. That they wouldn't just be born because of genetic anomalies and that. So he basically put chemicals in all their, like, from the food you eat to, like, the cosmetics and the medicine. Basically, he chemically castrated anyone that could give birth to mutants via, like, the food and stuff.
Which, again, political commentary.
And I also remember a lot of people hated that line, the line about the corn and shit, because like they're like, oh, that's just. I think because people are like, that's too like on the nose, or like that's too.
I'm just like, it's a fucking comic book movie. I've heard weirder shit.
Also, I'm like, be honest. Do you know what goes into the food you eat? Like, have you ever looked at the ingredients on the back of a box?
I mean, I have, but I know a lot of people don't. Hell, I've met people that don't wash their fucking vegetables they buy at the store. Which I'm like, if you do that, you are playing a fucking dangerous game.
Yeah, as someone who works in produce,
yeah,
wash your food or else you're gonna end up sterile.
Yeah, you're playing a dangerous. Not only you're playing a dangerous game, you're playing a fucking stupid game. Yeah, you might as well be playing Russian roulette with a fucking like a 45.
But do you know what any of these are? Niacin, thiamine mononitrate, riboflavin, folic acid. Do you know any of those?
Yeah.
Have you ever just been like, you know what I want?
It's like, if you don't, shut the fuck up. It's not a stupid plot point.
I want me a nice big glass of thiamine nitrate, mononitrate. Like again, like, it's not that weird. And anyway. And so basically,
now we just insulted the casuals that thought it was a dumb plot point.
And so basically, Logan eventually has to deal with X-24. Unfortunately, the medicine's starting to wear off, and he's too wounded. Like, he does a pretty good job, but it's not enough. Eventually, Laura and the kids finally.
Before we get into that scene where he's running up to where they're at, and he's just. That one part where he just like does like.
He does like the classic Wolverine launch.
I showed him the behind the scenes of Hugh Jackman doing the voice dub for that.
The ADR.
He gets so into it.
Oh no, like Hugh Jackman, whether or not you think he's too tall, like.
If he could shrink himself to the right height, he would do it.
He gives 110% whenever he's Wolverine. It's one of the reasons why I think Fox eventually, focused so much on him, because he's fucking great as Wolverine. It's it was really good. And so eventually all the other kids are like, fuck this, and they just start laying waste to the rest of Pierce's men. Eventually to the point where the kids all gather around Pierce and use their powers to bury the fucker alive. Now that scene where the kids are like burying him, I'm like, holy shit. You know what actually reminds me of, speaking of Westerns? Have you ever seen The Cowboys?
Yes.
With that scene where like they're after they kill all the dude's men and he's like, his legs are broken, he's still stuck to the horse. And he's like begging them not to kill him, and then they slap the horse, and basically the horse like drags him over rocks and breaks his neck. I was like, holy shit, that it had the same energy as that. Like,
No, it really
like,
it does. Now that you mention, I hadn't put those two together.
Yeah,
But yeah,
like,
that makes a lot of
like
sense.
where the scene where the kids like are shocking him and like pulling the air out of his lungs, and then they just use the grass to pull him into the earth. I'm like, I'm glad we didn't see what exactly happened to him, because I was like, there ain't nothing left to him.
Probably his lungs blew up.
There ain't nothing left to him. And so eventually, like,
Be like when you drown, your lungs explode.
yeah. The thing is, I think X-23 kills Pierce, or the doctor, I want to say.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Which, of course, makes X-24 even more mad, because basically Frankenstein just lost his creator. And I know Frankenstein is the doctor, not the monster. I'm just making a reference.
Some of us had to read the book for high school.
Yeah. And so basically, X-24 starts just murdering Wolverine and eventually impales him onto a piece of wood.
Which, watching that in the theater
No,
was
that
like,
was-
oh.
I watched it on my little tiny TV in my room, and I was like, fuck. Ow.
Yeah. Oh, dude, imagine watching it in the theater.
No.
And it's so fucking loud, and it's in
No.
front of you. You can't get away from it.
No, that was really, really rough. And so, you know, like, things look bleak until Laura finds the adamantium bullet, puts it into a revolver, and blows fucking X-24's head, like, almost clean off. Like,
Dirty Harry style.
yeah. And, of course, because, like, this was an adamantium bullet, it completely shredded his brains, and X-24 dies. Although, I've seen Wolverine come back from that, but whatever. And so, you know, she's trying to, like, pull, like, she eventually pulls, or she cuts the wood off from the back, from behind it, and she's begging Wolverine to, like, live and
To not die.
And Wolverine's like,
Again, at this point, Colton is
Yeah.
emotionally falling apart in the fucking theater.
no,
I'm bawling. I'm pretty sure everybody else in there is bawling.
if it weren't for the fact that I was, like, texting you guys while I was watching this and already knew he was gonna die, I probably would have also been a sobbing mess while I was watching it.
Like, I was starting to cry watching it,
Yeah.
and I was kind of kind of chill. Like, it's like you're watching a movie, and you're like, I feel sad, I'm crying. Then she called him daddy, and I
I'm like-
fucking lost it.
I'm like,
That's
damn.
that's the part where, like, heart just shatters. I'm emotionally fucking falling
Yeah.
apart.
And basically, like, Logan's like, you know, you're gonna have to live. You're gonna have to learn to live with the killing that you've done. And I'm sorry, I won't be there for you for that. But you've got these kids with you. You're gonna be fine. And then as he's dying, Logan says one last word, which is, "So that's what this feels like."
Well, and to tie this in,
Oh,
to fuck you up even more,
and like Yuriko
it ties
said to
into
him,
the Wolverine. He dies holding his heart in his hands.
and it's, of course,
holding
Laura's
Laura's
hand
hand
as he dies. And it's such a rough scene, especially because, like, it wasn't some, like, you know, he didn't go down fighting. Like, he was fighting, but, like, at the end of it, he still lost to X-24. You know, he just couldn't, like, in almost like a metaphor, he couldn't
beat himself.
He couldn't beat himself, which is probably true for a lot of us. We just sometimes can't beat who we are. And yeah, and yeah, it's very rough. And of course, then, you know,
Then it gets even rougher when they bury him, and I'm
they
like,
put
oh.
And we put the cross up, and of course, Laura gives his eulogy, and because she doesn't have any other, she basically just quotes the end of Shane. You know, you tell your mother there's going to be no more guns in this valley. And then, of course, you know, all the other kids leave. One of the kids even has a fucking Wolverine doll, which I'm like, it's been a rough day for you, kid. It's been a rough day for you. And, you know, the film ends with the kids leaving, and just before Laura leaves, she takes the cross that they put up and tilts it to be an X, which, you know, signifying that not only is it the end of Wolverine, it's the end of the X-Men. And then it just ends. Which I give this movie a lot of credit. I'm glad we didn't find out if Eden was real or not.
Well, and
I think that was
two things from this too that I remember very vividly from being in the theater for this.
Yeah.
We went in and they had signs up saying, "Hey, this is a rated R movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of violence, there's a lot of gore.
Well,
do not bring your kids here and
Yeah.
then complain to us that it's gory."
Well, especially because like,
which I remember they did the same for Deadpool. I remember that.
They had to because for some reason no one could figure out from the fucking trailers that Deadpool was R-rated.
Because some parents are just that fucking stupid, and they see superhero shit and they take their kids to it thinking it's gonna be okay.
Well, to be fair, I feel that less for Logan than Deadpool because like at least with Deadpool like he's funny and he cracks jokes.
Because I remember,
but
even when you bought the ticket, they said you're aware this is rated R.
Yeah.
Like, I think they made me show my ID because I was in like early years of college. I think they made me show my ID.
Yeah.
Which is kind of whack that I had to show an ID to buy a fucking movie ticket.
I mean, to be fair, they're technically supposed to with R-rated films.
No, I know, but
like, granted, most people like if you're going into an R-rated movie and you look like us, they're gonna be like, "Oh, you guys are obviously over 18."
Well, that and they also had a sign up saying that also there is no post-credit scene. Yeah. You don't have to stay the entire credit. You can leave. There's no post-credit.
That is fucking. I mean, to be fair, I actually kind of wish more movies would do that nowadays, just so I can be like, I don't have to fucking sit through the credits.
Listen, they did that, and like, dude, I don't even remember anybody coming in there sweep after that movie because I think they were just like, let the people fucking like grieve for a minute.
No, I
remember that. I remember like that. That car ride home was rough.
Yeah,
I don't think any of us talked the whole way home. Well, that was rough. I remember Colin was driving. He's just like, "Man, I'm putting some fucking music on." He put on some rock music. He's like, "I gotta fucking do something."
Yeah. Like I said, would you agree that you're glad that they didn't show if Eden was real or not? I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like that they left it open-minded, and like especially given that I feel like it ties into the New Mutants ending. Yeah. It's the same basic thing. It's very open-ended. You can draw your own conclusions what went on.
Because to me,
it's very comic booky.
Yeah. I think if New Mutants had done well and hadn't gone through the bullshit with Disney buying
and then being delayed like a year or two.
I actually think if they were going to do anything, what they might have done,
because I want to say this was done around the same time as Logan, if not very, very. I think it was supposed to be the first one after.
Yeah, because I think. What if? And this is just me like arm seat quarterbacking, spitballing. In New Mutants 2, not only is Eden real, it's led by Magneto, because Magneto did lead the New Mutants for a while.
That's true. That I would have liked that.
What if it's
they,
like
they pull some Age of Apocalypse shit and he's young again? There you go.
Yeah, because they could just get the guy from First Class. He'd be like, I've been taking these drugs. It's been keeping me young because like I knew after what happened with Charles, I knew that the New Mutants would need guidance.
I would have paid money to watch that movie because that movie would have been fucking awesome.
And like you could have had X-23 as a member of the New Mutants. Or like even like if you wanted to tie it into Deadpool and maybe give a more serious Deadpool, you could have Wade being like their leader.
I'm still holding out hope if they do decide to do Wolverine in the next like the MCU X-Men movie. I really don't want them to recast Hugh Jackman. Just have fucking X-23 be Wolverine. Like the casual people can get over it.
Yeah.
They'll get over it eventually. Plus, most of them have probably seen Logan and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, it's the same girl from that."
Yeah. Plus, hell, everyone's already gonna be mad at the fact at Thor: Love and Thunder because Jane's gonna become fucking Thor. Just fucking have female Wolverine too. Fuck them. Because I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like Laura a bit more than Logan as Wolverine. I kind of like more like the idea that Logan's just an old man now.
Like I said, I really want them to get that same actress because she's older now. I think she was in a movie recently that I saw and like she is still like perfect for being Laura.
No, that would be interesting. Or if you want, just have Hugh Jackman back and make him old man Logan. Just let him be old man.
Given the thing he tweeted recently, he tweeted some X-Men concept art and then a picture of him with Feige, and everybody's like, "Don't do this. Don't give me hope."
Like, just have him be old man Logan and have him mentor X-23. I'd be down for that.
I also would be down for that.
Like, and then give us Honey Badger and just give us the 3 Wolverines and have the scene where like someone tries to rob them and Honey Badger be like, "Are you here to rob us?"
Marvel, don't worry, guys. We're gonna give you Dakin. The rest of the audience, are you fucking for serious right now?
Let me tell you, I know Dark Avengers was popular.
No.
Ain't no way they're doing Dakin.
Nobody wants that.
You know how they're gonna do Dakin? They're gonna do a movie where he's evil, and then Laura cuts his fucking head off, and we never talk about Dakin ever again. But yeah, and that was Logan. So I want to kind of do our ratings real quick, and then I kind of want to just kind of do like a capper to this X-Men month.
My rating, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I actually agree with you.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
In fact, if I could give it a 15 out of 10, I would.
If you have to watch any X-Men film,
This and Days.
Yeah, This and Days. I probably would actually argue Days just because on the. Do you want to be sad? Like big sad?
Yeah, I would almost argue you don't get the full emotional impact of the end of this. If you haven't been like me, where like you grew up watching these as they came out, and then you see that, and it fucking hits you really, really hard.
No, yeah. I mean, great. I do think that this movie's fine enough as it is to watch on its own because it's very like compact. Like the only thing that you really is like X-Men, but I mean the X-Men are so well known. Like
there's enough just from popular culture that people should be able to infer.
You can just grab on like the X-Men are dead. Logan's the last one. Professor Xavier's, it's easy. But yeah, like this honestly was probably the best way for us to cap off the Good, the Bad, and the Wolverine because like,
what did it end? You know?
Like everyone's dead. The X-Men are gone, and all we have left are the New Mutants. And to be fair, like as much as we ragged on about X-Men Dark Phoenix, and like some of my more conflicting emotions on New Mutants aside, like it was kind of ballsy for Fox to be like, you know what?
We're gonna kill them.
We're gonna just kill all the X-Men and start fresh. Like could you imagine if the New Mutants had like come out on time and actually done well what this could have like led to? We could have gotten like all these new like interesting ideas with the X-Men. We could have gotten like more New Mutant stuff. We could have like done like really interesting stuff going forward, and it's kind of a shame.
All that, just like Spider-Man 4, we're just left with
what could have been. Yeah, what if? It's kind of sad because like I don't think we're going to be getting X-Men at least for another
decade.
Because I know they want to do Fantastic Four next.
Because the rumor I heard is that FF is supposed to be the final film of the of Phase 4.
Which I swear to God.
Which I'm like.
I want that to be so good.
You guys are cute. It's the last one of the 4 because FF. I get it.
Well, that and
that's cute. That's real cute.
I feel like that it's also so that they can set up whatever the new big threat's going to be after Thanos. Which, please Galactus, because I want actually a decent looking Galactus. Because I fuck that fart cloud from FF2 Rise of the Silver Surfer. Yeah, it's just kind of a shame that, like, for me being the one that was like, I don't know if I really want to watch these movies. For a long time, like, I didn't watch all of them.
Are you glad that I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. Let's review all of these.
I am very glad.
Because I think you telling me you hadn't seen a lot of them probably was to me also bolstered. Like, no, we need to do this because I want to see your reactions.
Like, it's been a very interesting ride going through all these. It's like, I found some movies I'm like, oh, these are actually kind of good. A little bit wasn't as great, like Origins and some of Last Stand. But like it's kind of interesting just to see the up and downs of this, because like say what you will about the MCU, like regardless of whether or not some of them are just kind of bog standard, at least like the quality has been
pretty level. So it was kind of interesting going into these, seeing like the high points, the low points, and just kind of the meh points. Remembering how much of a piece of shit Bryan Singer is. But as a whole, I am glad we did this. Maybe next time if we do a super long amount of movies, we save half of them for next year.
Because we're like 2 weeks into like January. We were gonna do a bunch of cat movies.
July, you mean?
Your July. What did I say?
January.
Fuck.
Fuck.
Well, to be fair, we are filming this at like midnight. You know, like I said, I'm just glad we did this, and I am glad that like I found something to pull from this. You know, like that for all of its teething issues and being kind of like one of the first big cinematic universes of the 20-aughts. At least we're kind of ending on a high note. At least like they gave a shit at some like. And I know technically Dark Phoenix. Does anybody actually consider Dark Phoenix the last X-Men film? Like, really?
I don't even consider it a finished movie.
Yeah, it's not even finished.
It's a work print.
Only real regrets is that, like, out of all this, I wish it really was the last film. Like I like New Mutants, but, like, it's just kind of a shame that, like, it ends on, like, what was supposed to be, like, the beginning of, like, the X-Men in general. I'm also kind of sad we just don't have enough time. We could have talked about, like, Generation X, or not Generation X,
Legion and Gifted.
And the Gifted.
We'll do those next year because I have to still watch all of that,
Yeah.
and then I could loan it to you.
To be fair, I don't really know if we need to watch Legion because I know it's about the son of Professor Xavier and like.
Well, I've heard Legion is really, really good.
Well, I meant more like because like I don't know how much it like really ties into the X-Men because I feel like Legion was like its own thing.
Like I said, I'd like to review both. At some point.
I'm not against reviewing them. It's just I don't.
Especially because it's like the last two things.
Yeah.
Live action X-Men.
Well, of course,
unless you want to count like what was the TV show from the early 2000s? Mutant.
Oh, Mutant X.
Yeah, Mutant X.
I do not count Mutant X because
I don't even know if you can get that anywhere.
You can actually because it a couple years ago they actually released a box set.
Okay, because I don't have it. I want to get it.
Do you want to just talk about Mutant X real quick?
I've never seen it.
Well, I watched it as a kid. I only watched like a handful of episodes. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. All I know is that there were characters with superpowers, and 12-year-old Adam was like, "Yay!" Also, there's this really smoking hot chick on there with like shadow powers, and I was like, "Yes."
Most I know about it is that's really where the bad blood between Fox and Marvel started because Fox had like an exclusive deal with. They thought they had an exclusive deal for anything X-Men related.
Yeah.
And somehow Mutant X was done by a different channel, so they got pissed, and there actually was a huge lawsuit about it.
Yeah.
To the point where Mutant X couldn't reference anything X-Men, period.
Yeah, because, like, it's all about these new characters that you've never fucking heard of. Like, they're kind of XPs for some other characters. Like, I think there's like a Havoc character, and there's like a Pyro character, I think.
But like that was the most I've ever heard about it is just like that because I've never seen anybody talk about it. Granted, I've never really like searched out anybody talking about it.
Because
but
like
I don't really see anybody talk about Gifted or Legion either.
Because like it came on like on Saturday afternoons. It came on like around the same time they were doing like reruns of like Deep Space Nine and like some other bullshit that like because like it's Saturday afternoon. Like no one watched TV on Saturday afternoon back then. I sound so fucking old.
I did, but I was a shut-in as a kid. So.
Well, yeah, but like because like that's usually when like sports and shit would come on. Okay, well yeah, you probably would be watching NASCAR when it came on.
No, that's a Sunday. That's a Sunday thing.
Wait, I don't know. I didn't really want because like once Saturday morning cartoons were done, I'm like, well, time to pop in my cartoon videos because Adam in the early and mid or for most of the 90s had no cable, so he had to make do with VHS tapes and like tape Nickelodeon for my grandma. So, but yeah, more or less Mutant X was just it had not Professor X, not X-Men, and they had shitty adventures because it was a 90s TV show. So it had the same like effects and shit as like
apparently Mutant X is actually on Prime with ads.
No shit. Yeah, it like I said,
once I get done watching The Boys, maybe I'll have to watch that shit.
Like I remember liking the show, but at the same time I was like,
holy shit, $106 for the Blu-ray set? What the fuck?
Well, like I said,
it's gotta be out of print.
Yeah, because I think they only did it once because I think they actually probably.
I can tell by the cover it's an import.
Yeah.
So that might have something to do with it. It's probably an import.
I remember them selling it here at Walmart for a little bit, but like it It did not last long. Yeah, Mutant X was just, it was bullshit. Like, I remember liking it, but at the same time, I remember watching it and being like, why is this called Mutant X if there's like no Cyclops or Wolverine? Because again, I grew up with the 90s TV show, so I'm like, where the fuck are the X-Men that I know? Because naive little kid Adam just was like, well, this is the X-Men, but I don't see any X-Men. And of course, we also got like stuff like Generation X, which we've done on this channel.
Oh, there we go. Complete series, Mutant X, 1 through 3, $25. Add that to my shopping list.
But yeah, like,
because everything else is like $100. I'm like,
we will probably review that eventually, but I'm probably gonna have to borrow that off you because there's no way I'm buying that.
Or I would have to like set you up and like here. I don't even know if I could give you my Prime account because I wouldn't be like, okay, that's a little.
No, that's understandable. Yeah, what your thoughts on the Good, the Bad, and the Wolverine?
Like I said, I was really happy we did this. It gave me a chance to really revisit some stuff. A couple films I hadn't really sat through the entirety of, or hadn't sat through the entirety of in a long ass time, such as like X2.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad we did it. I really had a lot of fun with this because I think the only one I really didn't like was First Class, because like I remember even coming into the review of Origins with you being like, Adam, I'm actually going to defend parts of this because it was still enjoyable. It was shitty, but it was enjoyable. Because I brought that up to Brian. He's like, no, I completely agree with you. It sucks ass, but it's an enjoyable fucking movie. But it's not very good.
Like I said, like I feel like if Deadpool hadn't been in it, I probably could agree with you. But like, as someone who likes Deadpool, and that movie just shits on my heart, basically. To give you the best reason why I don't like that movie, it takes a big shit on my heart, and it took Ryan Reynolds leaking Deadpool footage for us to actually finally get the big we're sorry from Fox Studios. But yeah, like I said, I'm glad I did see it. I'm glad I got to see the First Class universe, because like I actually think, although I like the first ones, I kind of like the First Class ones a little bit more just because it's more stuff I'm familiar with.
See, I'm like the opposite. I like the original stuff.
Which fair, like, well, not like First Class specific, but like I like seeing Apocalypse, and I like seeing like the Days of Future Past stuff. So like, because like as much as I like the earlier X films, I'm like, well, it's just Magneto again. It's just Magneto again. It's just Magneto again. Oh hey, there's some. Oh God, what have they done to Deadpool? But yeah, no, I do see why. I like the original trilogy. It is good for what it is. It's just it has a lot of teething issues for me. Like again, like the fact that like we get no fucking costumes, despite the fact that like, and I know like that was what was with the X-Men at the time. Like again, most of the people that went to see these movies grew up with the animated series. Just do the costumes. Yeah, it is kind of interesting to see them because, like, as someone who was the Spider-Man kid when these were coming out, it's kind of cool to see, like, what the Spider-Man films are going up against. And I'm sorry.
No, listen, if you're going to say Raimi's better, this is a fucking given. You're not hurting me.
No, okay, because, like...
This is a given.
I'm sorry. The fact that we get to see Spider-Man in his actual fucking costume kind of blows them out of the water.
Anybody that says the X-Men troll movies are better than the Raimi-verse is fucking delusional.
Yeah. Or Dan Slott.
Well, Dan Slott's opinion doesn't count.
Actually, I don't know what Marvel's opinions of the Raimi trilogy is anymore, to be honest. I don't even know what Marvel's opinion is of these movies anymore.
Yeah, but anyway, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up here. So thank you for joining us for The Good, the Bad, and the Wolverine.
And thank you for joining us for 100 episodes of Remember the Hyphen.
Indeed. Thank you, guys. Here's to 100 or so more.
And as always,
we ask you
to remember the hyphen
and take care.
Schnick bub, schnick, schnick to bub.